All right, boys, I want to see if we can break 469 likes in 24 hours. All right, what is good? What is happening? How is everybody doing today? My name is Chuck, and welcome back to a brand new Modern Warfare top 5 most overpowered classes for you guys to use, of course, in Modern Warfare multiplayer. Today, we're going to be going over basically a whole bunch of updated classes for you guys, because I've been going through and I've been dominating multiplayer, and I have so much to be able to show you guys. It's going to be absolutely insane. Quick little reminder, though, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys drop a like on today's video and subscribe with all notifications turned on. We're on that road to 700,000 subscribers. So to be honest, if you guys could, subscribe and join the squad for me, and let me know down in the comment section below, what is your go-to gun in Modern Warfare pubs? Okay, so my first gun here for the top 5 is going to be the FAL, and this is the ALLIUM variant. This is kind of a cool, like almost Damascus type thing, but this is a really solid gun in my opinion. So let's actually jump into this. For the muzzle, we're going to go down to the very bottom and add on the mono suppressor for that sound suppression, that damage range. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The mono is indeed going to be the best suppressor in the entire game, so you guys should always run the mono, basically no matter what. If you don't have it unlocked, run the tactical, and then when you have the mono unlocked, basically run it all the time and never look back. For the barrel section, we're going to go ahead and use the XRK marksman barrel for that damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. This is by far the best barrel you guys can use on the FAL, and this will really help you out, and in my opinion, it is the only barrel to use on the FAL. There's no reason to kind of make this thing, more fast and agile with those other barrels. It just doesn't do you nearly as much benefit, so run the XRK marksman. Now for the underbarrel section, we're going to go ahead and use the Merc foregrip for that recoil control and that hipfire accuracy. The reason we're using the Merc is because this is a semi-auto weapon, aka it's basically dependent on how fast your trigger finger is. So when we get into those situations where we're in close quarters combat, we can't necessarily whip out our our pistol in time. For me, the best thing to be able to do is obviously to be able to hipfire and of course try to aim down sights, and so this is going to really help out in narrowing that shot spread for you. So run that for the recoil control and the hipfire accuracy. This is going to help you out in those closer quarter situations, and obviously recoil control is definitely a good thing as well, so the Merc foregrip is incredibly good. For the ammunition side of things, the FAL is a 20 round magazine stock, and we're not going to run the 24 round, and there's really nothing bigger than the 30, so we're just going to run the 30 round magazine, as this is my go-to attachment on this gun. I don't really think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about this. Just throw on the 30 round magazine. It's basically kind of standard and what you really need if you're playing pubs, or even if you're playing Warzone. You just need the 30. And for our last attachment here on the FAL, we're going to be running the no stock attachment for that movement speed and that aim down sight speed. This is absolutely incredible to run on the FAL, and I found that this happens to be an amazing setup for me, and I've dropped plenty of nukes with this one, so I'm excited to see how you guys do with this in public matches. I made a dedicated video on it where I showed some really awesome gameplay with this, so definitely go use the FAL. It is an amazing gun, kind of a bit overpowered in the right hands. Well, actually, it's a lot overpowered in the right hands. Okay, so now we're going to be in here with the MP5, and this is of course going to be a staple to a lot of my top 5 setups, because this is essentially going to be the best SMG in the entirety of Modern Warfare, without a doubt in my mind. So we're actually going to skip the mono on the end of the barrel, and we're going to go in here to the barrel and add on the monolithic integral suppressor. I've said this a couple of times beforehand, but I do believe that this is going to be the best thing you guys can possibly use on this gun. It just really happens to be better for, I do believe, hiding your tracer bullets or anything else like that. There's no tracer or anything left behind it. It has like a hidden sort of effect like that, and it's also just going to be a tad bit better for that sound suppression, and the bullet velocity is kind of more or less minimal, but to be honest with you, it is a tad bit better, and realistically, who doesn't want to be even just a slight bit better? That can be make or break between you and the other guy who maybe has a monolithic on the end of the gun. For the underbarrel section, we're going to go ahead and use the Merc foregrip here. Because this is an SMG, we want to be able to have peak hipfire, accuracy. That just is odd, that just means something. Like, obviously we want to be able to have the ability to hipfire as accurately as possible. You're trying to get up close quarters with a lot of people here. This is a close to medium range gun, so being able to take people out in that close range effectively is huge. And obviously the Merc foregrip is going to really help out that recoil control. It's going to make this thing an absolute laser beam, so I do think this is a really solid option. For the ammunition, I know there is a debate largely on the channel and also in the community, but to be honest, I just always use the 45 round magazine. I find it to be the best for me. I just really like the 45, and it seems to be really solid on basically all my setups, no matter if I'm playing multi or if I'm playing playing Warzone, I just basically don't ever deviate from this, and it is really, really solid. Now we're going to get ourselves more mobility out of this thing, so we're going to go use the stipple grip tape here. The stipple is kind of like a staple to a lot of my builds. Aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed. Obviously, we have peak hip fire accuracy. Now we have better sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. So obviously, we're just trying to make this gun, as mobile and as efficient as possible. So the stipple is really going to help you guys out here in this category. Last but definitely not least, here on our stock, we're actually going to go down to the very bottom and add on the FTAC collapsible for that movement speed and that aim down sight speed. We've just made this thing a peak mobility machine, and you guys are gonna be able to take people out so incredibly fast. Pair this with a specialist setup and you guys are going to be dominating the battlefield. Seriously, I love using the MP5 with this specific setup. This is awesome, and you guys for sure need to go ahead and try this out. Assault or specialist, it does not matter. This thing dominates with anything. Okay, so next up here, we're actually going to be jumping into the PP19 Bison. This has actually become one of my favorite SMGs to use in Modern Warfare. Though it is not necessarily the hardest hitting, it is still incredibly fun, and it definitely has the largest magazine out of any of them, even stock, but we can definitely increase that even more. So the first thing we're gonna do here, muzzle, obviously we're going for the monolithic suppressor. This is just kind of how it is here. I mean, it is the best one in the entire game, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You guys kind of know the drill and understand it. Now we're going to move into the barrel section, and what we're actually going to go ahead and do is we're going to use the 8.7 steel. This is the first one you happen to get, but it is indeed going to be the best for you. It has the most damage range, most bullet velocity, and recoil control, the trifecta. This is the best barrel you guys can possibly use on this thing to make it the hardest hitting, PP19 Bison as possible. So always run the 8.7 steel. So this next attachment here, the 84 round helical mag, is entirely unnecessary in my opinion, but I love running the 84 round mag on this thing just because it allows me to almost never reload again. I mean, I like to say that, but then I reload after dispensing like 5 or 7 bullets, and as if it's really gonna matter. But honestly, I mean, it's just super good, and you guys should definitely run this. I find it to be like really fun to be able to run around with in multiplayer. I mean, who doesn't want to have 84 rounds in an SMG in public matches? Like, it's kind of ridiculous, and it's really fun. So now we're actually going to go for a little bit more mobility here on this thing. So we're going to add on the stipple grip tape like we definitely have previously. Aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, definitely really good, as stable to a lot of my setups here in Modern Warfare, and also even in Warzone or something like that. Run the stipple. This is going to do you a lot of good. I've had great success with this so far, so I'd highly recommend it. And for our last attachment, we're actually going to go ahead and throw on the no stock, and I actually wasn't necessarily running this a lot previously, but then I came across somebody in my game who was running it, and I thought the PP19 Bison looked super cool, the no stock attachment on it, and also it gave me more mobility, which I was like all for, considering I had an 84 round mag on there. So the no stock for me has been amazing. I've dropped definitely a few nukes with this so far, and I really like using this. This is an amazing gun to use. It's not necessarily the hardest hitting like the MP5, but it is definitely super solid, and you guys should definitely give it a go, because I mean, the PP19 Bison really does hit. Okay, so next up here, we're actually going to jump into the AS Val for my top 5, because the AS Val is incredibly good. Probably one of the fastest killing guns in the entirety of Modern Warfare and even in Warzone. The only downside is that it doesn't have nearly enough big of a magazine as we'd prefer it to have, but if it did happen to have that, it'd probably be super overpowered. But even regardless, I mean, it still kills incredibly fast. Let's actually jump into this here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to the very bottom and add on the VLK 200mm OSA barrel. This gun is already suppressed as is, and you can't remove the suppressor, so we don't have to spend any attachments on that, any slots on that. So we're going to do this. This is going to make this the most hard-hitting version of the AS Val possible for the damage range and bullet velocity. Super good, super effective, and I'd highly recommend you guys run this. For the underbarrel section, I've definitely spent some time using a variety of different things on this to see what's going to be the best, but for me, I've actually found out that I really like the Commando foregrip on this, and this is going to go perfectly with the build I'm showing you. So definitely it's going to be awesome. Recoil stabilization, aiming stability, very solid, and I think this is absolutely awesome, and you guys should for sure always run this. Very good, and I've spent, like I said, a lot of time trying out all these different attachments in here, and I found the Commando to be the best. Like I was saying about the magazine size earlier, this thing comes with a 20 round stock, so we're gonna have to throw in the 30 rounds, and that's just ultimately going to be better. I mean, it's not what I prefer. I'd like it to have a 45 round or something like that. That'd be cool, or a 4 majority, but I mean, if it had that, it'd probably be significantly more overpowered than it actually is already. And then it'd probably take over the meta entirely for multiplayer and Warzone, because it's literally the fastest killing gun in like both versions of the game. So definitely just run the 30. It's gonna be the best you're gonna possibly get, and obviously there's no reason to run this. I mean, this was glitched out a while back and it was super cool to be able to use, but it's not glitched out anymore. You can't shoot people through walls, so just run the 30. It's gonna be the best option. Now for the rear grip, we're actually gonna go ahead and throw on the stipple grip tape here to give ourselves a little bit more mobility, because we're definitely gonna slow this gun down just a tad bit here in our next attachment in order to, you know, minimize our recoil. So this is gonna help us balance out that. So aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, it's a staple to a lot of my setups. You guys should definitely go ahead and run this. Very, very solid attachment. Last but definitely not least, we're gonna go into the stock category. We're gonna go down to the very, very bottom here and run the VLK Strelok for that recoil control, aiming stability, and aim walking steadiness. I actually made a dedicated video on the ASVAL already, and I mean, seriously, this setup is absolutely incredible. You guys should definitely go check it out if you haven't already. I mean, the VLK Strelok on this thing is just makes it an absolute laser beam with this setup I have on it right now, and you guys are for sure gonna like this. Definitely go give it a shot, try it out, tell me what you think down in the comment section below, because the ASVAL is super OP. And last but definitely not least, I can't help but actually go in here and give you guys an M4A1 class setup. So let's actually jump into this here. So the muzzle, obviously the mono suppressor, this is just going to be the best one for you guys to be able to use. I would highly recommend it. Now let's actually jump into the barrel section, and what we're going to go ahead and do is, because this is a multiplayer setup, even I've used it in Warzone, we're going to use the Corvus Custom Marksman for that damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. This is going to be really good for you guys, and it's going to allow you to get all those benefits without slowing down too much. So if I was you, I'd definitely try this out here. I'd only ever switch between this and the stock M16 barrel, as those are the only two viable ones in the entire category. All the rest of them just kind of really suck, so you guys definitely shouldn't mess with any of those other ones. Use the Corvus though, it's really good. Obviously here for the underbarrel section, we're gonna use the Commando foregrip. We really just don't gotta get too crazy with this thing. I mean, seriously, it's the Commando. I mean, it's gonna do perfectly, you know, it's gonna do its job perfectly. There's just no reason to go any more overboard and use a Merc or a Ranger or an Operator or anything else like that. Just use the Commando. Don't question it. Don't think too much about it. You're not gonna like hit people any more of like being like a laser beam by using any of those other attachments. To be honest, I mean, I guess you kind of might, but you'll slow your gun down significantly. It's just really not worth it. For the magazine, I mean, this is just kind of what I'm going to use here, which is a 60 round magazine. It feels good to me personally. You guys could definitely run a 50 round in public matches if you want to, but like I always say, I'm a 60 round magazine kind of guy, so I'm gonna run the 60 no matter what. This is my preference, what I'd like to run. So if I was you guys, run the 60 and just don't really think too much about it. The gun's gonna be amazing when you use it. And last but definitely not least, let's actually use a rear grip, and we're gonna go down to the stipple grip tape. Stippled is a staple to a lot of my builds. This thing is amazing. Aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, increasing the mobility of this gun because we slowed it down with our barrel here a little bit. Now we're bringing it back up and helping ourselves out. So this is a really good setup here for the M4A1. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one and enjoyed this video, because this has been a really solid top 5. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe with all notifications turned on. Make sure you guys comment on the comment section below, and just remember, don't triple cap, don't be a Randy, and I'm out. Peace.